This horror comedy story begins with a young girl named Su-yan, but not just an ordinary one, she was also a shaman. Shamans are people who drive out evil spirits from human bodies using rituals. Well, Su-yan happened to be wrestling with an exceptionally powerful spirit, but that stubborn entity simply refused to leave. The moment it realized that Su-yan intended to banish it to the afterlife, it became outrageously furious and flung her across the place. That's when everyone noticed that beneath her shamanic robes, she was also wearing a school uniform. People instantly concluded that she was just a student faking it, and their trust shattered into pieces. They mocked her relentlessly, calling her performance nothing more than a money-making gimmick, claiming she wasn't a genuine shaman at all. Naturally, Su-yan was deeply hurt. She left from there and rushed toward her school. She was so late that she missed her school van, and in desperation, she began climbing the school wall like a ninja. She slipped midway and nearly fell flat on her face, but thankfully, her best friend Yoon swooped in and caught her. Yoon was the only person who knew her secret that apart from being a student, she was also a shaman, along with all the challenges that came with it. As soon as she entered her classroom, the other girls ridiculed her, but Su-yan only smiled because she knew that people's lives are always entangled with countless problems. That's why she never responded harshly, because she genuinely was a kind girl. That day, however, she also had a math test which went abysmally wrong, leaving her feeling dejected. Later that night, Su-yan phoned her house helper, saying she wouldn't return home and would study in the library instead. But in reality, she simply fell asleep there out of exhaustion. Meanwhile, another student was sitting in the washroom when he heard the sound of dripping water. As he looked upward, he saw a terrifying water ghost looming above him. Panic-stricken, he dashed into his classroom to warn everyone. But of course, nobody believed him because in school, even ghosts needed a permission slip to be taken seriously. That same night, Su-yan had a bizarre dream. A little girl appeared and told her that whenever someone walked backward, it meant their time of death was near, because an evil spirit was clinging to them. The girl also warned that one day such a boy would enter her life. He would be extraordinarily handsome, and the very moment she saw him, she would surrender her heart to him. The following morning, Su-yan was returning home with Yoon when she encountered a spirit. She promised that she would soon liberate it and send it back home. Once she reached her own house, her mother scolded her, because she was also a shaman. Her mother admonished her for leaving rituals incomplete, but Su-yan insisted that she wanted nothing to do with shamanism, preferring instead to focus on her studies. Her mother, however, refused to listen, forcing her back into shamanic robes and rituals once again. The next day at school, Yoon casually asked her what her dream boy would be like. After some thought, Su-yan replied, "Someone who would never walk away from a crying person without comforting them." It's because when she was little, Su-yan sobbed bitterly by the roadside, ignored by everyone. That's why she wished for no one else to suffer what she had endured. Later that evening, an old lady visited Su-yan along with her handsome grandson. The moment Su-yan saw him, she was shocked because she instantly recalled her dream. The boy was walking backward, a sign that a dreadful spirit was attached to him and that death was dangerously close. The old lady explained that the boy carried a heavy curse. When Su-yan asked the boy what he would do if he saw someone crying, he replied that he wouldn't leave until that person was comforted or better. Su-yan was moved, and this was exactly what she had wished for. And in that very moment, she fell in love with him at first sight. As soon as they left, her mother warned her that she had almost lost her life once before because of a boy. But Su-yan declared that this time, no matter what, she would save this one because she had fallen in love with him. Her mother was left utterly shocked by her answer. The next morning, a new student arrived at college, and unsurprisingly, it was the same handsome grandson. His name was Jimin. He didn't recognize Su-yan, but she recognized him instantly. Seeing her smiling constantly, Jimin remarked that not every problem in life could be solved with a smile. Later, when a girl began flirting with Yoon, Su-yan couldn't help but react because she knew Yoon had no interest in that girl. Instead of backing off, the girl snapped at Su-yan. Again, Su-yan smiled, but this time Jimin's words echoed in her mind that a smile wasn't the answer to every issue. Shortly after, Yoon was approached by the same boy who begged him to accompany him to the washroom, but Yoon misunderstood and brushed him off, shooing him away. The poor boy entered the washroom alone, only to be attacked once again by the water spirit. Meanwhile, Jimin also encountered a spirit that was about to attack him. Suyan spotted it and rushed in to save him, but in doing so, she put herself in danger. Jimin ended up rescuing her and sternly told her that she need not interfere in everyone's life all the time. But by now, Suyan had already resolved to protect Jimin at all costs, so she went to a powerful shaman to have a talisman made for him, paying a hefty sum. The shaman teased her, saying it seemed she was in love with this boy, considering how much money she was willing to spend on him. Meanwhile, the boy was being taken away in an ambulance, and Yoon was filled with guilt, thinking that if only he had gone with him in the washroom, this wouldn't have happened. At the same time, Suyan's health began deteriorating, forcing Yoon to take her to the nurse's room. Meanwhile, Jimin was receiving countless love letters from girls, but he ignored them all. He was so handsome that they practically lost their minds over him, but he simply dumped all the letters into the trash. Suyan, meanwhile, was hatching a plan. When Jimin came to collect the talisman, she would finally reveal her true identity to him. But Jimin never came, only his grandmother did, claiming she would hand it over to him. When Jimin eventually did show up, he said the talisman was far too expensive and refused to take it. This sparked an argument between them, and Jimin left without it. Back in her room, Suyan placed a paper charm to protect Jimin for 21 days, the exact window of time before his death became inevitable. The next day, Suyan stationed herself in the washroom because she knew the water spirit was there. When the spirit appeared, Suyan managed to reason with it, persuading it not to harm any more students and promising that she would guide it to its rightful place. Surprisingly, the spirit agreed. But suddenly, when Jimin arrived there, the water spirit immediately slipped back into attack mode. Jimin began to feel as though he were drowning in water, but Suyan quickly used a talismanic paper to drive that spirit away. Somehow, after a desperate struggle, she finally managed to save Jimin's life. When everything settled down, Suyan told him that she only wanted to protect him and, while saying this, she stared deeply into his eyes, which seemed utterly adorable to her. Jimin had driven away the water ghost for now, but after this incident, Jimin and the rest of the boys were summoned to the principal's office. For the grand chaos that had unfolded, they were given punishment, cleaning the entire school for a week. Naturally, all the boys directed their frustration at Suyan, convinced that the entire mess had started because of her. While scrubbing floors, Jimin also told her in irritation to stay away from him and stop hovering around. Some boys smoking nearby flicked their burning cigarettes onto the ground. There, a spirit with the body of a dog and the face of a human appeared, casually picked up the cigarette and placed it on cardboard, setting off a fire. Suyan rushed immediately, extinguishing the flames, and even declared boldly to the spirit that she wasn't afraid of it and would soon send it back to his place. Unfortunately, the boys nearby assumed she was saying all that to them, and as they began walking toward them slowly, terrified, Suyan blurted out that she would clean the entire school alone, and they had nothing to worry about. Relieved, the boys left. Furious, Suyan turned back to the spirit, scolding it for nearly getting her killed. Meanwhile, Jimin watched everything from afar and thought this girl must be insane, since her antics were far too bizarre. Later, Suyan was with her mother, who asked what her plan was now to save that boy, clearly referring to Jimin. Suyan admitted she had no talismans left, since all of them had been used on the water spirit. Her mother then handed her some new talismans, saying she had ordered them from the flower master. But in a flashback, it was revealed that this flower master was the same fraud who had tricked them before, often making useless fake talismans. The next day at school, Suyan tried to get hold of Jimin's phone so she could hide a talisman inside it, but her attempt failed. Just then, Yoon showed off his little magic trick, pretending to trip and fall on Jimin's desk, only to quietly steal his phone. Outside, while Suyan was trying to slip a talisman into the phone, Jimin's grandmother arrived, immediately recognized it as his, and thus their plan failed once more. Meanwhile, Jimin and his friends searched Jimin's name online and discovered that he had once been a member of the national archery team and even a champion. Everyone was completely shocked by this revelation. At home, Jimin told his grandmother that his phone was missing, but she replied that his friends had returned it after apparently finding it somewhere. Jimin grew suspicious and muttered that they weren't his friends, nor would they ever be. Back at school, a boy announced to the class that Jimin had once been an archery champion, but he was expelled from the team after a massive fire broke out because of him. Meanwhile, Suyan and Yoon finally came up with a plan to hide the talisman inside Jimin's house instead. When Suyan tried to enter his home and with a puppy, Smile asked about his room. For a moment, Jimin got shy, and after a moment he snapped that she had no reason to go into his room and should just sit quietly in the living room. He warned her that his grandmother would be home any moment, as Yoon also had gone grocery shopping with her. At the market, the grandmother lacked enough money, but Yoon told her not to worry, as they would happily eat whatever food she already had at home. At Jimin's house, Soo-yeon asked Jimin for some water. When he left to fetch it, she sneaked into his room to place the talisman, but Jimin returned and caught her. Nervous, Soo-yeon stammered that she had just been admiring his room, during which she clumsily spilled water. Jimin bent down to clean it, and at that exact moment, Yoon and the grandmother walked in, catching them in an awkward situation. Jimin's temper shot up further because of Soo-yeon, and he told them that it was just a misunderstanding. That evening, while everyone was having dinner, Yoon told Jimin that he was extremely fortunate because his grandmother loved him so dearly. Hearing this, Soo-yeon spoke up, saying she was adopted and her mother never cooked her such delicious meals. The grandmother, smiling at the compliment, gave Soo-yeon more food. Later at night, the grandmother even praised Soo-yeon for being such a strong girl in front of Jimin, but he couldn't say anything about her. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon and Yoon sneaked into Jimin's room to hide the talisman, but a box fell, revealing all of Jimin's medals and certificates. They realized just how talented he really was. Unfortunately, Jimin walked in right then, scolding them harshly for rummaging through his belongings and angrily telling them off. Soo-yeon asked if he was interested in archery, but Jimin denied it. At that moment, Soo-yeon received a call from her maid, who told her that many people were waiting for her. As she was leaving, Jimin's grandmother stopped her because she recognized her as the real shaman and warmly called her a fairy lady. The next day in the school, some girls gossiped about Jimin, claiming that wherever he went, fire always followed. Soo-yeon overheard this and thought people were unfairly blaming him. During lunch, Jimin sat alone, and when Soo-yeon and Yoon tried to join him, he snapped that he didn't want their friendship and they should stay away. Soo-yeon explained that the fires weren't his fault, but the work of a fire spirit that constantly clung to him. He still ignored them, and later that evening, Jimin noticed his grandmother carrying food and secretly followed her, only to find her taking it to Soo-yeon at a temple. Jimin burst out in anger, accusing Soo-yeon of not only taking money before, but now even food. He dragged his grandmother away. Hearing this, Soo-yeon's maid asked if she felt hurt by his words, but Soo-yeon said she wasn't offended, but she was only worried about him because she believed he might die in fire soon, and she had to save him at any cost. The next day at school, everyone continued avoiding Jimin, leaving him isolated. He walked alone near a container, where Soo-yeon spotted the fire spirit and realized Jimin's life was in danger. She quickly pulled out all the talismans, only to discover they were fake, once again proof of the flower master's fraud. The container caught fire, and Jimin blamed himself, thinking everyone was suffering because of him, so he might as well die. But at that very moment, Soo-yeon rushed into the fire without hesitation and began fighting the spirit. The fire spirit proved extremely powerful, yet the scene itself was so intense that even a Hollywood director would have yelled "cut" just to calm his nerves. Well, the fire spirit began overpowering him completely. Just then, Yoon arrived at the scene and extinguished all the flames with water, finally saving everyone's lives. After this, the three of them were summoned to the principal's office again. The principal put the entire blame on Jimin, but Soo-yeon and Yoon immediately stepped forward to defend him. As they stepped outside, Soo-yeon tried to reason with Jimin, but he once again snapped at her, angrily telling her to stay away from him. In the next scene, Jimin's teacher told him that he could return to archery since he was incredibly talented. However, Jimin flatly refused. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon was at the temple when Jimin's grandmother came to meet her. She began telling Soo-yeon about Jimin's past, explaining how, as a child, everyone saw him as a danger because wherever he went, fire would mysteriously break out. For this reason, his parents abandoned him forever, but she added that he was still her grandson and she could never leave him all alone. Hearing all this, Soo-yeon felt deep sympathy for Jimin, and her heart ached for him. On the other hand, Jimin was telling his teacher that his grandmother used to love his archery, but what angered her most were the people who hated him. Watching others despise him always broke her heart. That, Jimin said, was the reason he gave up archery, because people were consumed with jealousy toward him. But the teacher explained to him that archery was his true calling. Meanwhile, Jimin's grandmother requested Soo-yeon to please take care of her grandson. As Soo-yeon held her hand, she realized with horror that the grandmother was already dead. Soo-yeon grew emotional and promised not to leave Jimin alone. When Jimin returned home, he discovered the truth that his grandmother had passed away. He broke down completely, for now he had no parents and even his grandmother had left him. Su-yan hurried to the funeral, but Jimin stopped her and asked why she had come. In her heart, she thought to herself that she would protect him no matter what, but aloud she only said that she had come for his grandmother. She then quietly sat inside a room, where she could even see spirits roaming around. There, she overheard two women talking, saying that only 2 people had attended the funeral even though food had been prepared for 30. Hearing this shocked Su-yan, and she immediately called her mother. But her mother, busy performing a ritual with her sister, couldn't answer the phone. Su-yan then called her friend Yoon and told him that Jimin's grandmother had died and he must rush there at once. Meanwhile, Su-yan's mother, while performing the ritual, sensed how extremely powerful the spirit was. Since many people were present at the ritual, she quickly sent them away so that the spirit wouldn't harm them. Back at the funeral, slowly more people began to arrive, and even Jimin's uncle came. But he angrily blamed Jimin for everything, shouting that wherever he went, disaster followed, and now he had even devoured his grandmother. Hearing this enraged Su-yan, she stepped forward to confront him. But Jimin's uncle shoved her away, sneering about what business a shaman had at a funeral. At that moment, Yoon arrived as well, while Su-yan's mother was still battling that powerful spirit. The spirit suddenly launched an attack on her, forcing her to rush outside and lock the room. Blood dripped from her mouth as she told the others that they did not need to summon another shaman for the spirit, because if the spirit wished, it would leave on its own. She even returned the woman's money, saying that until the spirit was removed, she could not accept any payment. While leaving, Su-yan's mother noticed something strange, and at that very moment, on the street, she saw a mysterious young woman wearing some unusual ornament. As a child rode by on a bicycle, the woman smiled at him, but suddenly a car hit the boy and sped off. A terrifying spirit appeared, the poor child died instantly, and the woman walked away smiling. Meanwhile, Jimin asked Yoon how he even found out about his grandmother's death. Yoon replied that Su-yan had told him. Jimin pointed out that Su-yan hadn't even come there. Yoon, fumbling for an excuse, said that perhaps she worked part-time nearby, and that's how she knew. Later, Jimin returned home, where he received a message saying, "Good thing your grandmother died. I'm very happy about it." But who exactly had sent it? At the same time, Su-yan was furious with the Flower Master, accusing him of giving her nothing but fake amulets. The Flower Master smirked and told her to buy his subscription plan, then he would make 50 powerful amulets for her. That only infuriated Su-yan further, and she stormed off. Meanwhile, Su-yan's mother was discussing with her sister that the incident at the previous house was the doing of the spirit of a human woman. That woman wanted to make her spirit even more powerful, and that was why she had summoned Su-yan's mother there to test her. In short, she was extremely dangerous. Just then, Su-yan arrived, asking her mother why they hadn't come, because she desperately needed their help. She also told her aunt that everything happening to Jimin wasn't his fault. It was all caused by a spirit that was relentlessly haunting him. Su-yan declared that for 21 days, she would protect Jimin no matter what. Hearing this, her aunt realized that young Su-yan had fallen in love, and so she handed her a book, telling her that if she truly wanted to save Jimin, she must read it completely. But the book was written in another language. Su-yan sighed that if she tried to read it, her whole life would pass before she finished. The next day, Su-yan went to Jimin's house, pretending she had forgotten some belongings, but her real motive was something else, as she had seen a ghost there. A ghost that appeared only when someone was on the verge of committing suicide. Su-yan realized that Jimin was terribly depressed and was planning something dreadful. He was thinking of ending his life. Tears welled up in her eyes as she grew heartbroken. She tried to comfort him, saying he should stay happy because that was what his grandmother would have wanted. She explained everything to him gently. After she left, Yoon arrived and handed Jimin the keys to the archery ground. Meanwhile, Su-yan's mother went to a news agency, where she inquired about a famous woman named Hwasa. But it turned out Hwasa herself was secretly listening in on their conversation. After school, Su-yan came and told her mother that she had seen the suicide ghost near Jimin. Her mother explained that suicide ghosts are most active in the afternoon because most people commit suicide at that time of day. Hearing her mom, Su-yan drew numerous human amulets on her body, exactly as her mother had instructed, so that by touching Jimin, she could protect him. The next day, she was touching Jimin and even tried to deliberately sit beside Jimin in the bus while heading to school. However, Jimin finds it extremely odd and goes straight to sit next to Yoon instead. Yet, Su-yan continues attempting to touch him, and whenever she succeeds, the ghost instantly drifts away from Jimin. Meanwhile, in school, Everyone got to know that Jimin was never guilty for the fire incident. As a result, all the students feel embarrassed in front of him and even apologize. At the same time, Soo-yeon keeps looking for excuses to touch Jimin, like deliberately dropping things, sneaking closer, or finding some creative reason to brush against him. Jimin, of course, finds all of this extremely bizarre, which Yoon notices too, and he even begins to feel a slight tinge of jealousy. After all, he is Soo-yeon's best friend. Finally, Soo-yeon confesses the truth. She only wants to protect Jimin and needs Yoon's help for it. When Jimin heads to see his grandmother, Soo-yeon secretly follows him. Inside, they see photographs of his grandmother, and both of them become deeply emotional. Soo-yeon tells Jimin that offering flowers alone won't be enough. He should also do the things his grandmother loved, such as archery. Hearing this, Jimin recalls how happy his grandmother had been when he once won an archery award. So, he finally decides to take up archery again. Soo-yeon becomes delighted upon knowing this, and Jimin soon begins practicing on the ground once more. During school, when they are studying together, Soo-yeon suddenly notices a baby ghost. The sight instantly reminds her of her mother's warning. There are 3 types of ghosts she must avoid at all costs: the smiling ghost, the dancing ghost, and the most dangerous of all, the child ghost. Controlling a child ghost is nearly impossible, practically zero. Later, Soo-yeon speaks to the flower master through a video call, informing him that she had seen the baby ghost in college. The flower master then teaches her how to craft a new amulet and instructs her to place it on her classroom desk. The next day, as she is putting it up an amulet, Jimin suddenly arrives and tells her he has something important to discuss, taking her to the rooftop. He confronts her, saying she is behaving strangely, following him around all the time, and asks what on earth is going on. Soo-yeon nervously responds that it is nothing like he is imagining. Everything is purely coincidental, and he should not mistake it for excuses. Jimin begins to think that she is doing all this out of pity for him, but Soo-yeon quickly explains that it is not so. He is her very good friend, and she only wishes to protect him. Unknown to them, the ghost overhears the entire conversation. As soon as Jimin smiles at Soo-yeon, both of them gaze into each other's eyes, and the ghost drifts away. Soo-yeon becomes so excited that she tries to high-five Jimin, but he grabs her hand instead. The scene then shifts to Soo-yeon doing her shamanic work, though honestly she ignores most of the people who come to her with problems and instead keeps pestering Seven with one burning question. If a boy holds a girl's hand, does it mean he loves her? Or was it just static electricity fooling with her destiny? Seeing this, her mother grows furious, scolding her for neglecting her shaman duties. Meanwhile, Jimin is practicing archery, though his mind is distracted, his hands trembling as he recalls the exact moment when he held Soo-yeon's hand. The story shifts to Wasa, who is at the museum looking at Jimin's grandmother's picture and smiling creepily seriously, the kind of smile that makes you want to call an exorcist immediately. At the same time, Soo-yeon and her mother arrive at the haunted house. Soo-yeon praises her mother for being so powerful and a great shaman, but her mother humbly denies it, saying that if she were truly powerful, she would have already captured that woman. During this, 2 boys doing a live stream sneak into the haunted house and try to open a sealed door that Soo-yeon's mother had locked. She stops them, but the boys mock her, joking that even a shaman is present with them. Soo-yeon arrives, pulls out her sword, and frightens them enough to chase them away. However, once Soo-yeon and her mother leave, the boys return and open the door again. The evil spirit inside possesses one of them. His eyes turn blood red, and he kills his own friend. The next morning, while reading a book, Soo-yeon discovers that any object bearing eyes and a nose can be used as an amulet to protect someone. She immediately thinks of a clip balm with a face carved on it and, without wasting time, turns it into an amulet for Jimin. She hands it to him, saying his lips look extremely dry and he should keep it with him. Jimin smiles and accepts it. Later, in the school bus, Yoon notices Soo-yeon's odd behavior while Jimin himself is surprised, wondering why Soo-yeon suddenly seems so shy. Both start smiling at each other, and Yoon, of course, feels jealous. At school, Soo-yeon sees the same child ghost clinging to a girl's leg. She notices it is asleep, meaning it is harmless for now. To protect Jimin, she quickly grabs him by the collar, but once she realizes what she has done, she apologizes. Yoon finds her behavior increasingly strange and asks why she is acting this way lately. Soo-yeon replies that the weather is unusually beautiful today, which is why everything feels strange. Later, during lunch, Soo-yeon sits next to Jimin, which irritates Yoon. He scolds her, reminding her that she is his best friend and should sit beside him instead. After this, again in the playing ground, Suyan sees a cute spirit dog and blows it a flying kiss. Jimin misunderstands, thinking she is flirting with some boy, and jealousy sparks in his heart. But Yoon clearly questions Suyan, asking why, when her first love is Jimin, she still calls that boy cute and even blows kisses at him. Suyan explains she actually saw a cute dog spirit and couldn't resist sending it a kiss. Meanwhile, in the village, a rumor spreads that something terrible has happened to a group of boys inside the haunted house. The villagers rush to Suyan's mother for help, knowing the spirit inside is extremely powerful. She agrees and quickly calls Suyan for assistance. Suyan received the call in school and told the boys that she must go, and although Jimin and Yoon offer to accompany her, she chooses to go alone. Finally, the ritual begins. Meanwhile, when Jimin is walking to his house, he unexpectedly bumps into Hwasa. She shows him a bag containing his grandmother's photograph, along with a talisman, and tells him that his father used to worry excessively about him, which is why she had come there. At night, Suyan participates in the ritual, but her heart is still tangled with Jimin. She keeps wondering if he discovers that she is a shaman, would he start despising her? Coincidentally, Jimin is also coming down the same path. Suyan, in her thoughts, affirms that this is the boy she truly wants to protect. Jimin politely requests her to remove her mask, explaining that people have mistaken his friend for a shaman. Suyan is just about to remove it when her mother suddenly intervenes, scolding Jimin for meddling in matters he should not. Later, Suyan feels deeply dejected, but to cheer her up, her mother buys her a cute little dress. Excited like a child who just got ice cream in winter, Suyan happily rushes to meet Jimin. When the lights go out, the two of them end up sitting together on a bench. A flashback reveals Jimin's painful childhood, where a lady threw salt over him while his grandmother stood silently beside him. The next morning, Suyan visits Jimin again and cheerfully suggests that since the weather is delightful, they should ride bicycles to school. Both climb the wall to enter their classroom, and Jimin is thrilled because this is the very first time he had done something so adventurous. He even tells his archery teacher that he wants to start practicing again. Meanwhile, Suyan is heading towards the haunted house because her mother wanted to perform some rituals, but when she arrives, her mother is nowhere to be found. Instead, she encounters Hwasa, who was already there. Before letting Suyan enter, Hwasa instructs that she must perform a dance to fully prepare herself for the ritual. At the same time, Jimin's teacher assigns him a task to return from the haunted house within an hour, no matter what. Jimin too heads in that direction. Suyan thought it was her mother's instructions, so she started dancing with Hwasa, and Suyan had not even worn her mask when suddenly Jimin arrived. Seeing Suyan as a shaman, his heart shatters into pieces, and he convinces himself that the dream he once held can never be anything but a nightmare. The sight of Suyan standing beside Hwasa, who had never treated him kindly, makes him feel even worse. Overwhelmed and wounded, he silently walks away. Suyan notices him too, but before she can react, Jimin bumps into an old classmate, an utterly unpleasant fellow who assaults him brutally. Jimin does not retaliate and instead breaks down emotionally, wondering aloud if he is truly so detestable that no one could ever like him. He asks himself if he is only worthy of hatred, recalling his childhood and his family, especially Hwasa, who had never accepted him. Meanwhile, Suyan, who had been following Jimin, suddenly sees spirits surrounding him. She rushes in, shields him, and apologizes, finally confessing that she had always wanted to protect him, which is why she never revealed her true identity. But Jimin feels utterly used, believing she never loved him at all. His mind drags him back to memories of his mother, Hwasa, who was also a shaman, and who had deliberately kept him away from that world. This was the primary reason why Jimin had grown to hate shamans, and now perhaps why his anger toward Suyan was flaring. The scene then shifts to Suyan's mother, who is performing a ritual outside the haunted house with her sister to prevent the spirit inside from escaping. They even seal the door with amulets. Returning home, her mother finds Suyan in tears. Suyan explains that Jimin has discovered her entire truth and will never accept her because he is devastated. On the other side, Jimin sits at home, lost in Suyan's words, remembering when she once told him to let her stay with him for just 5 more days, and then she would leave forever. Jimin, heartbroken, misinterprets everything. Meanwhile, the Flower Master informs Suyan's mother that the haunted house spirit is being controlled by a powerful shaman, none other than Hwasa, who manipulates people and kills them. Suyan then admits she had recently seen Hwasa near that place. The next day at school, Suyan tries to talk to Jimin, but he coldly ignores her. Observing their strange tension, Yoon asks if they are all right, but Jimin brushes it off by saying it is their personal matter. During lunch, one of the girls in their team reminds them that since they are working on an important project together, they must at least talk until it is completed, since the four of them are in the same group. Later, Soo-yeon reveals everything. She does not have a part-time job, but is actually a shaman. She wanted to be friends with Jimin because she genuinely liked him. Jimin asks her why she wished to befriend him. Soo-yeon is about to confess her love when Yoon interrupts, saying that friendship needs no reason. Jimin, with a heart more broken than a dropped iPhone screen, leaves without saying a word. Soo-yeon then vows that only 5 days remain, and she must protect Jimin at all costs. On their way home from class, Soo-yeon notices a child still clinging to a girl's leg while two women are quarreling nearby, disturbing the poor child, who bursts into tears. Soo-yeon tries to stop the fight, but the child continues sobbing, even in class, where Soo-yeon attempts to comfort him. Jimin arrives. She holds his hand, but suddenly the glass shatters, cutting Jimin's hand badly. He becomes convinced that everything wrong is happening because of Soo-yeon, and angrily tells her to stay away. Later, Soo-yeon visits the girl's house with the child and sees her massive doll collection, realizing the child is connected to one particular doll. Soo-yeon asks to buy it, but the girl flatly refuses. Meanwhile, Jimin, sitting at home, keeps wondering why Soo-yeon is trying to protect him, but angrily throws away the lip balm she had given him into the trash. The child's spirit is still crying, and the girl begins to suffer terrifying nightmares that leave her with severe headaches. The next day, Soo-yeon again asks for the doll, but the girl refuses once more. Later, in the library, the child cries loudly, shaking the entire bookshelf. Jimin, in an act of pure bravery or pure foolishness, depending on perspective, puts himself in danger to save Soo-yeon. The shelf crashes down, Soo-yeon is saved, but poor Jimin ends up injured and is rushed to the hospital. Well, at this point, even her teachers were motivating her a lot, and Soo-yeon too gave Yoon an amulet and instructed him to hand it over to Jimin. Afterwards, she went to the temple, where the flower master had crafted a completely new and immensely powerful amulet. Suddenly, a woman appeared there who looked utterly insane. She considered a doll to be her lost child. Soo-yeon remembered that the doll the child had been attached to might actually belong to this very woman, and gradually it was confirmed that the child and the doll indeed belonged to her. Soo-yeon once again approached her classmate at school, requested the doll, and simultaneously explained to her that there was a baby spirit residing in her house which could harm her and others. Eventually, her classmate accepted this truth and handed over the doll. Meanwhile, Jimin had become excessively emotional, lamenting that every single person who entered his life always ended up in trouble. According to him, this clearly meant that he himself was the root cause of all the chaos. He was completely devastated, and Yoon, after hearing this, too became deeply saddened and promised Soo-yeon that he would also help her in saving Jimin. After this, Soo-yeon took Yoon to the temple and inscribed the same amulets on him as well. Since Jimin was far away from her, Yoon agreed to sacrifice his favorite toy to transform it into an amulet, and he even handed it to Jimin, although he was not taking it. After this, Jimin was going for a walk when he saw the lady crying, so he stood beside her. He did not leave until she stopped crying, ensuring that she wouldn't feel alone. Witnessing this, Soo-yeon recalled the moment when she had told Yoon that her crush and her true love would be the one who, upon seeing someone cry, would stand beside them until they were comforted. And well, finally, Soo-yeon returned the doll to that troubled woman. Even the child's spirit smiled, overjoyed to see this, and everything fell back into place. As the two were leaving, Soo-yeon noticed her lip balm lying discarded in a garbage cart. The sight of it made her burst into tears, and she sat in the rain, weeping bitterly. Ironically, the lip balm was clearly better at ruining her makeup than at saving Jimin's lips. Before anything, let me tell you Hwasa's story. She was a shaman, adopted by Soo-yeon's mother after her own parents abandoned her. Later, when she gave birth to a child, the poor baby died, and she completely lost her sanity. Unable to move past this trauma, she attempted dark rituals to revive her child, offering it to an evil spirit in exchange for life, even agreeing to sacrifice others as payment. She had even begun performing such rituals, but just in time, Soo-yeon's mother arrived and stopped her. From that moment on, Hwasa started worshipping the devil, turning from a good shaman into a malevolent one. She never hesitated to take lives. In fact, she seemed to derive joy from it. Now, as Soo-yeon sat crying by the trash, Jimin suddenly appeared, realizing that throwing away the lip balm wasn't his smartest life decision. Seeing Su-yan weeping broke his heart, so he took her to his home. There, Su-yan finally noticed a dangerously cursed amulet on Grandma's photos, which had the potential to drag her to hell. She explained that simply removing the amulet wouldn't work. Instead, its effects would become stronger, and the only solution lay in performing specific rituals, like burning old photographs. Su-yan questioned who might have done this, and Jimin revealed that it was Hwasa, the same woman she had danced with that day. Poor Su-yan felt extremely dejected and pleaded with him to believe her, assuring him she had only met Hwasa for the first time then, and that they had no prior connection. Jimin, deeply emotional, expressed how everyone he had ever loved left him forever, and it seemed to him that Su-yan too had betrayed his trust. Su-yan felt heartbroken, but right now her only focus was to protect Jimin and remove the curse from his grandmother's soul. So she went to see her ashes and found another extremely dangerous amulet hidden behind Jimin's grandmother's picture. Around this time, Jimin met his father, but instead of support, his father told him he could not stay with him because of the curse surrounding him and demanded he leave forever. Shocked to the core, especially since Jimin had come only to tell him about Grandma's death, he walked away in despair. Meanwhile, Su-yan's mother and the flower master were looking at Su-yan's childhood photos when she burst into the room and declared that the amulet Hwasa had made must be destroyed. Everyone was stunned, as it was immensely perilous. Later, Jimin confronted Hwasa, demanding to know why she had condemned his grandmother to hell. Hwasa attempted to hypnotize him, but thanks to the robot toy Yoon had given him, her spell failed. At the same time, Su-yan's mother and the flower master managed to neutralize the amulet's effects. But suddenly Su-yan became weak and utterly exhausted, so she rested. Meanwhile, once Hwasa learned that something was protecting Jimin, she rushed to his house, discovered the robot, and was about to destroy it when Su-yan arrived and snatched it away. The two clashed, and Su-yan boldly declared that she knew her true intention. Hwasa, utterly stunned, tried to frighten Su-yan, who was just by pretending to be the baby's shaman, but the moment she witnessed Su-yan's fairy-like powers, she herself got terrified and ran out. Su-yan followed her, warning her again. At that very moment, however, the flower master and Su-yan's mother had already used a ritual to expel the ashes. The flower master warned that Yu should not have touched those ashes without gloves, but she retorted fiercely that she could do anything for her daughter. Meanwhile, Jimin unwillingly burned his grandmother's picture in front of Hwasa to release her from the curse. But then, the evil spirit immediately entered Hwasa's body, and blood began to flow from her ear. Watching this, Su-yan commented that instead of worshipping evil spirits, she should have been worshipping God. Hwasa, now severely weakened, finally staggered away. Su-yan quickly called Yoon, informing him that only 2 days were left, and he must remain with Jimin constantly, touching him repeatedly in every situation to keep him safe, so their mission could be completed. The very next day, Jimin was at school and Yoon stayed faithfully by his side. Su-yan had instructed him that whenever ghosts appeared, she would clap instantly, and at that very moment, he must touch Jimin. While they were playing on the ground, numerous faceless ghosts appeared. Su-yan panicked and clapped loudly, and Yoon, without hesitation, wrapped Jimin in a full embrace. Yoon was not leaving any chance to touch Jimin. Everyone watching was left utterly shocked, while Jimin himself grew suspicious that something fishy was definitely going on, and if not supernatural, then at least dramatically suspicious. Meanwhile, Su-yan, the flower master, and mom enter the haunted house, where they discover that Hwasa has already removed all the amulets. Countless faceless ghosts suddenly begin attacking them. Somehow, the three of them fight back together against the ghosts. Meanwhile, Yoon keeps touching Jimin repeatedly, which makes Jimin realize the truth, and he says that he knows Su-yan must have told him to do so. Yoon then reveals the entire truth. At the same time, Su-yan says that she needs the head of a doll. As soon as she gets it, instead of burning it, she smears her blood on it and completely activates it. In school, after listening to everything, Jimin finally tries to learn a little about Su-yan's past. He discovers that Su-yan had always been pure-hearted since childhood, helping people as a baby shaman. But one day, her parents abandoned her forever, breaking her heart. Later, the woman who is now her mother adopted her. The next morning in class, Su-yan sees a dog ghost. The ghost dog had come to seek her help because someone was hurting his owner. Because his owner went to a haunted house and found a ring. The moment it wore the ring, he became possessed and started harming himself. Su-yan realized the haunted house was extremely dangerous, not a place to be entered lightly. Yet, after the dog ghost's repeated pleas, she finally agreed to go inside. Jimin too rushed in to ensure her safety, though his behavior seemed rather odd. Jimin first entered the haunted house, but he accidentally stepped on a black magic doll, allowing the evil spirit inside it to possess him. As soon as he entered, the gate shut behind him, leaving poor Yoon stranded outside. While saving a bully, Sooyeon found a photograph that revealed the evil spirit had chosen Jimin as its sacrifice, summoned none other than by Hwasa herself. The spirit fully took control of Jimin's body and declared that it would only leave once Sooyeon killed him. A romantic twist was revealed that when the evil spirit had seen Sooyeon dancing that day, and amusingly, had developed a strong liking for her, the terrifying entity basically had a crush. However, it was still heavily dominating Jimin and even challenged her. If she could find the spirit before Hwasa did, it would grant her one wish. Saying this, the spirit fled toward the school, where it attacked a group of bullies. Yoon noticed Jimin's increasingly hostile behavior and tried to fight back, but the spirit shrieked in unbearable pain at the sound of a gunshot and finally vanished. This made it clear that the spirit, too, carried a dark past, something that terrifies him. Jimin eventually regained control of his body. After seeing everything, Sooyeon was deeply shocked and finally began confessing her love to him. Just then, the spirit returned into Jimin's body, and Sooyeon realized that whenever she held his hand, the spirit disappeared. This confirmed that the amulet's effect was working perfectly. Sooyeon brought Jimin to her family, the flower master and her mother, to remove the spirit. Together, they attempted an exorcism, but the spirit escaped again, causing Jimin's body to act bizarrely. He even insulted Mom harshly, cursing at her. Finally, Sooyeon held him, which allowed Jimin to regain control, apologizing for all the vile things the spirit had said, though none of it was truly his fault. With no other option, Sooyeon's mother locked him and Sooyeon together in one room, instructing them to hold hands constantly. She strictly warned them that holding hands was enough, and nothing more, because they were still minors. The next morning, when Sooyeon woke up, she found Jimin missing. It was revealed that he had gone back into the school, where the evil spirit inside him was thoroughly enjoying archery and also tormenting Yoon. At one point, it even punched Yoon in the stomach before running off. As soon as Sooyeon arrived, she tried to control him, but he wouldn't stop. He just kept running away. Sooyeon asked the spirit its name. It replied that it couldn't remember. So, Sooyeon gave it a name herself, Bonggu. She called him Bonggu 3 times, which caused the spirit to freeze. The thing is that if a shaman calls a spirit's name 3 times, it freezes. Sooyeon used this knowledge to her advantage, grabbing his hand, and Jimin returned to his body again. Just as they were about to leave, the bully reappeared, and a fight almost broke out. Yoon arrived, trying to control the situation, but he misunderstood something, and in the process, Sooyeon's hand slipped away. The spirit re-entered Jimin and fled instantly, leaving poor Sooyeon frustrated and wondering what she would do next. This game of hide-and-seek continued for a while until finally Jimin revealed that he had made a deal with the evil spirit. During school hours, the body would belong to the spirit, and at all other times, it would be his. Sooyeon grew terrified, worried about whether Jimin could actually handle such a promise. For the entire day they held hands, but the spirit was cunning. It would sneak in occasionally, play its tricks, and slip out again. Eventually, Jimin and Sooyeon shared a romantic moment together, both of them looking genuinely happy. Later at night, the two of them were asleep, still holding hands. But after midnight, the spirit grew much stronger. Hwasa appeared, having performed a dark ritual. As she secretly went to speak with the spirit, Sooyeon's entire family had been watching her closely. Hwasa pleaded with the spirit to become her guardian god. But the spirit bluntly told her that it wanted to stay in Jimin's body for at least another 10 to 20 years because it liked it far too much, and besides, it had also started liking Sooyeon. Hearing this, Hwasa was completely shocked. After all, the very spirit she worshipped had just rejected her. Back in the room, the spirit gazed at Sooyeon's face, longing to touch her, but stopped himself, knowing that if he did, Jimin would return. The following morning, the senior shaman arrives, who happens to be none other than Sooyeon's mother's sister. She proclaims that this lethal spirit is profoundly perilous and must not be allowed to exist here, sternly warning Sooyeon to stay away from it. Just as she prepares to cast potent spells, Sooyeon interrupts, insisting that it is Jimin whose body the spirit has possessed, but Jimin himself is innately benevolent. Still, the senior shaman remains unwavering in her resolve to banish the spirit at any cost. With remarkable audacity, she pushes Suyan aside and begins her incantations, triggering a fierce confrontation between them. Ultimately, Suyan intercedes, clasps Jimin tightly in her arms, and the spirit dissipates. Afterwards, they strategize a method to send the spirit away permanently. At this point, the senior shaman elucidates that if 4 out of Jimin's 5 senses are entirely awakened, the spirit will forever dominate him. On the day of the grand archery competition, that very calamity unfolds. Suyan arrives enthusiastically to cheer for Jimin, but notices something unsettling in his eyes. In truth, Hwasa had already activated the talisman, causing Jimin to perceive spirits in every corner. The sorcery Hwasa had invoked was exceedingly formidable, designed to tempt the malevolent spirit onto her side. Because of this enchantment, Jimin perceives only sinister apparitions encircling him. His head reels, his sight grows dim, and he cannot comprehend that his spiritual vision is awakening, signifying that 4 of his senses have already been activated. Yet he conceals this from Suyan, unwilling to alarm her. Instead, he beholds Suyan's ethereal, fairy-like form, which appears dazzlingly divine to him. One radiant smile from her amidst the archery ground miraculously dissolves his stress and rejuvenates his courage. But just then, Suyan hears the resonant chime of a bell and chants, only to discover Hwasa performing black magic. In haste, she retaliates with a counter-curse. The backlash is so brutal that blood trickles from her ears, and Hwasa's sorcery collapses. Suyan triumphs in halting the curse, but she herself is gravely injured, debilitated, and agonized. By some fortune, Jimin remains unscathed, and even seizes victory in the competition. When Suyan anxiously inquires if he is well or if he had heard eerie voices, he reassures her he is absolutely fine, concealing the truth to spare her worry. All Jimin sees now is Suyan's luminous fairy form, though he also perceives ominous black blotches upon her skirt. He seeks counsel from the senior shaman, confesses everything, and admits he has begun perceiving phantoms, thus confirming that 4 of his senses have been awakened. He also inquires about the black stains, and the senior shaman reveals they portend something calamitous in Suyan's destiny. She must bear divine retribution for tampering with a formidable spell. Overwhelmed, Jimin vows to safeguard Suyan at all costs, even if it requires sacrificing his own life. Before departing, the senior shaman gravely warns him to avoid spirits and never allow his blood to spill, for even a drop would render him a vessel ripe for complete possession, thrusting his soul into eternal oblivion. Meanwhile, Suyan's mother discerns that Hwasa's maledictions are deliberately aimed at Suyan. She reprimands Hwasa harshly, demanding that if hatred must be harbored, it should be directed toward her instead of her daughter. To this, Hwasa retorts venomously that before Suyan's mother became Suyan's mother, she was hers first, and she despises every soul connected to her. She sneers that Suyan too will be forsaken someday, just as she once was. Hwasa bitterly recalls how her own parents had deserted her, and though Suyan's mother adopted her, she prophesies that Suyan too will one day be left behind, descending into the same darkness. Suyan, upon hearing this, is utterly shaken, petrified by the notion of maternal abandonment and the terrifying possibility of becoming a bad shaman like Hwasa. Her maid, however, consoles her, assuring her that she is pure-hearted and nothing like Hwasa. She explains that Hwasa had endured torment in the past and was never truly understood. In the ensuing scene, Suyan notices an invisible box clinging to Hwasa's back. She even calls out, but Hwasa purposefully disregards her. Later, in solitude, Hwasa scrutinizes it and horrifically realizes that the box is the coffin of her deceased infant. Appalled, she confronts her mother, demanding why she had concealed that her baby's coffin perpetually clung to her back. Her mother, composed, explains that it is her divine chastisement that her child must bear the anguish of all her sins. In fury, Hwasa curses her mother, declaring that just as she was estranged from her own child, her mother too shall forever remain divided from hers. Yet despite her malice, her mother still tends to her wounds and hands her a handkerchief because at the end of the day, maternal instinct refuses to resign. That night, Suyan and Jimin lie down side by side once more, fingers interlaced. Poor Suyan is now utterly drained, enfeebled by the lingering effects of the curse. Conversing softly, she eventually drifts into slumber, while Jimin remains faithfully at her side through the night. The next morning, her mother storms into their chamber and shrieks in shock. Suyan, startled, springs awake, and her mother scolds them vehemently, reminding them she had strictly instructed they were only to clasp hands and nothing beyond that. since they were still minors. Poor Jimin, quivering like a student caught copying in an exam, blurts that he had done absolutely nothing. Rather, Soo-yeon had accidentally rolled from her bed onto him during the night. Later at school, they abstained from holding hands, enabling the malevolent spirit to repeatedly seize control of Jimin's body. Their teacher assigns them a task, to write about their dreams and ambitions. Soo-yeon, earnest as always, writes that her only wish is to attend university, graduate, and attend her convocation ceremony. But the spirit inside Jimin mischievously writes, "I just want to be an adult." Hearing this, the entire class erupts with laughter. The evil spirit seemed to be having a more entertaining high school experience than Jimin himself. But because of the spell, now Soo-yeon appears terribly frail but refuses to let it hinder Jimin's archery practice. Afterwards, she retreats to the washroom, splashes water on her face, and the moment she releases Jimin's hand, the evil spirit reawakens within him. Gazing into the mirror, the spirit questions whether Jimin truly cared for Soo-yeon yesterday, pondering if perhaps Jimin has genuinely fallen in love with her. Jimin explains that because of divine punishment, Soo-yeon feels dreadfully weak, sickly, and fragile, and thus, he must nurture her with utmost devotion. Listening to this, the spirit experiences something almost human, the first twinge of jealousy. When they return to class, they notice the bespectacled boy staring fixatedly at his phone. Because some bullish boys were threatening him for money, and around him, that suicide ghost was also lurking. This clearly meant that he wanted to end his own life. Soo-yeon now could not understand what she should do, and so she called Jimin. At that moment, she also recalls the words of the senior shaman, who had warned her that if she tried to stop him, she too could fall into grave trouble. Yet, despite this, she thought not about herself but about the boy, and in order to save him, both she and Jimin finally reach the male washroom. In the struggle to snatch away his knife, Jimin also gets a cut on his hand, causing him to bleed. When he regains consciousness, Soo-yeon starts talking to him, teasing him that it seems like he hasn't practiced archery for the past 2 or 3 days. She then takes him to the ground. Well, after training, when they are in the locker room, while both of them are conversing, Soo-yeon slips. Both of them fall onto the sofa, and a romantic moment emerges. Finally, she asks him when he will tell her the truth, meaning she had realized that this was not Jimin but the evil spirit, because he has taken full control over Jimin's body. The spirit then reveals to her that it had absorbed Jimin. Hearing this, Soo-yeon becomes deeply sorrowful. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hwasa is searching for something in the room, and she had already asked the spirit about the ring through which it had possessed Jimin's body. But the spirit lies, saying it does not know. Earlier, Hwasa had also knocked out the flower master and stolen all the talismans from him. After that, she sets out in search of the ring. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon's mother has also managed to extract the entire truth at great speed, discovering that Hwasa desires Jimin to completely turn into a spirit. But the spirit had not agreed to this bargain, for instead, it wished to live like a human being. The mother also realizes that Hwasa wants to shatter the ring and summon the Grim Reaper from hell. Therefore, she tells Soo-yeon to save the spirit because it is inside Jimin's body. Otherwise, if the Grim Reaper takes Jimin's body, that is Jimin himself, away from here, he will be lost to hell forever. After learning everything, Soo-yeon begins to show sympathy toward the spirit. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yoon also comes to know that this is not Jimin but the evil spirit, and he scolds it harshly because it was troubling Soo-yeon too much. Soo-yeon declares that since Jimin's body is with the spirit, she will give her sympathy to the spirit, and that they are going to perform a ritual for 100 days. The spirit also admits that it has fallen in love with Soo-yeon, and whenever anyone touches her, it feels intense jealousy. After learning all of this, Yoon also decides that he will surely help in this ritual. Then one day, the spirit saves a bespectacled boy from bullies who were tormenting him badly, and everyone becomes highly impressed. Along with this, it also starts helping everyone in class, and people are greatly impressed by this transformed version of it. Yet Soo-yeon continues remembering only Jimin because she loved only him, and she wanted to bring him back at any cost. After speaking with the flower master, she learns that she can talk to Jimin between 12 and 3, or at midnight. That night, as soon as Soo-yeon calls his name, Jimin truly returns, and he tells her that he saw 2 soldiers, one tall and one short. Soo-yeon suspects that the spirit must be the tall soldier and that there must be some story behind it, so she tells Jimin to befriend the soldiers to learn their story. The spirit, however, remains unaware of their meeting. Meanwhile, the spirit, who was in Jimin's body, openly declares in front of everyone at school that if he wins the archery spirit competition, for which he had worked hard and been selected, then he will claim Suyan's first kiss. He shouts this loudly, which makes Suyan extremely angry, and she storms away. On the other hand, Hwasa is furious, because all her plans are failing, and she also comes to know that Suyan talks to Jimin at midnight. So, manipulating the spirit, she tells it that since it is only a spirit, Suyan will never love it. Then, to test Suyan's feelings, the spirit takes away her talisman. At night, when Suyan once again calls Jimin's name, the spirit pretends to be Jimin, but there is pain in its eyes because by now it has understood the entire truth. The moment it calls Suyan a shaman, she realizes it is the spirit, because Jimin would never call her that. The next day, the spirit takes both Yoon and Suyan to a memorial. On the stone, his name is inscribed, and he is revealed to be the same tall soldier. Finally, telling his story, he says that when he was young, the short soldier was his companion, and after his death, he had given him a ring to deliver to his mother. But he could never do so, and this guilt is what turned him into a spirit. He buries the ring there and declares that he will no longer remain a wandering soul, but will forever stay inside Jimin's body. Saying this, he runs away. Hearing everything, Yoon is utterly shocked and therefore goes to Hwasa to ask how they can bring Jimin back. Manipulating him, Hwasa says they need the ring. Yoon immediately retrieves the ring, and Hwasa begins chanting spells over it. As she does so, the spirit inside Jimin's body writhes in agony, and the gates of hell open, from which the Grim Reaper was about to emerge. Suyan's mother also understands everything, and therefore, she hides Jimin and sends Suyan with a statue to confuse the Grim Reaper. Somehow, they finally succeed in defeating this curse. At the same time, the spirit also begins chanting and seizes all of Hwasa's powers. But here comes a major twist. The punishment does not fall upon Hwasa. Instead, she sees the handkerchief with which Suyan's mother had bandaged her wounds, and she realizes that Suyan's mother had taken all her punishments upon herself. Hwasa then rushes to her mother, only to find her in a terrible condition. She was slowly dying. Crying, she asks why she had saved her. Her mother replies that since she could not stop her from casting spells, she had no choice but to take her punishment upon herself. After this, the mother dies, and seeing this, Suyan weeps bitterly, while Hwasa also vents out all her rage and grief. The spirit was still casting spells when he suddenly heard Suyan's cries, and in that very moment, he realized his mistake. He only ever wanted to protect himself. Well, meanwhile, Hwasa stormed furiously into his room, but alas, he had already disappeared from there, almost like Houdini on a bad day. Jimin, however, encountered a bizarre child who called him a bad person and even shot at him. And this child was none other than the spirit's own companion, the one who, after his death, had asked him to give the ring to his mother. Well, the scene now shifts to Hwasa telling Suyan that no matter what, the spirit must be killed. But Suyan was entirely unwilling to agree. To stop her, she locked Hwasa inside the prayer room because the spirit was still within Jimin's body, and she did not want any harm to befall him. Then Suyan, with her power, drifted into Jimin's dream world, where they spent time together in a tranquil dreamscape. They went on dates, laughed, and shared joy. But suddenly Jimin remembered that the spirit was missing. Suyan reassured him that if they uttered its name, it would return. In that same moment, Suyan confessed to Jimin that he was her first love, that she loved him intensely, and right there she kissed him and performed a ritual. She declared that they would surely meet again at the graduation ceremony. But the instant Jimin regained consciousness, Suyan had vanished, and now Suyan and the spirit were seen walking together on an unfamiliar path, because Suyan had taken the spirit into herself to save Jimin. At that moment, she also recalled her mother's words that when darkness descends, one must choose the correct path on their own. Some time passed, and Jimin now lived alone, working tirelessly with his coach. He even won countless medals, yet the memories of Suyan never let him rest in peace. Graduation day arrived, and while everyone was elated, Suyan's absence was deeply felt. Jimin and his friends clicked photos in her memory and became emotional. Well, after this, Hwasa once again appeared before everyone and announced that Suyan was now completely bound to the spirit, which made her extremely dangerous. Therefore, to stop her, they must kill Suyan. After learning all this, Jimin refused to agree, firmly believing Suyan could never harm anyone. But when Suyan and Hwasa finally stood face to face, Hwasa was about to attack her directly. Just then, Jimin arrived and somehow managed to save her. Both of them fled from there. Afterwards, Hwasa warned Jimin that if he ever encountered Soo-yeon again, he must run away and not go near her, because she still carried the spirit within her, and she could kill him. Jimin could not do anything, and 2 years later, he had now become a remarkably successful athlete, and during an interview, he even mentioned his first love, saying he was still searching for her. Yoon too watched this interview and thought that this boy would never give up. Meanwhile, he also found the lip balm that Soo-yeon had once given him. Hwasa then asked Jimin whether he had seen any dream where Soo-yeon appeared. If Soo-yeon had shown up in his dream, that would mean she had died. But Jimin replied that he had not seen any such dream. But in reality, Jimin kept experiencing strange dreams where he felt that Soo-yeon was still around him. He even sensed a connection while gazing at a painting. Meanwhile, in her dream world, Soo-yeon was with the spirit, hiding from Jimin. The spirit told her that if she wished to meet Jimin, she could. But Soo-yeon replied that she would not meet him because she did not want to hurt him. To correct everything, with Soo-yeon's body as his vessel, the spirit went directly to the flower master and demanded a talisman that would allow him to curse Jimin. But the flower master refused and told him to leave. Just then, Jimin also arrived, forcing the spirit to hide. Later, when the spirit tried to escape, Jimin chased after it, caught hold of it, and asked whether she was Soo-yeon because now she looked utterly strange, and Soo-yeon had never dressed in such a way. The spirit, however, was cunning enough that to distract Jimin, she even kissed him. Laughing afterwards, she said, "No, I am not Soo-yeon. I am the spirit." When the spirit returned home, without saying a word, she directly kissed Yoon, leaving him completely shocked. He stood frozen, probably wishing life came with a pause and rewind button. A little while later, he realized this was not Soo-yeon, but the spirit itself. The spirit teased him, saying she was merely joking, just checking whether he had found a girlfriend or if he still had a crush on the shaman. Well, poor Yoon remained silent. Immediately after, Jimin pulled the spirit inside the house. When the spirit changed clothes, Yoo was shaken to his core because she had suddenly become bold. "Well," the spirit arrogantly declared, "quickly praise me, or else I will kill both of you." So, compelled, they were forced to shower her with compliments. And at that very moment, their friend Jin returned from military training. Jimin tried to stop him, while Yoon hurriedly hid the spirit, still inside Soo-yeon's body. But she was secretly devouring all the food, and therefore Jin inevitably noticed her. At once, he called all his friends and told them that Soo-yeon had returned. Everyone was so overjoyed that they rushed instantly to meet her. Everyone was sitting together, chatting away, but they were a little shocked upon witnessing Soo-yeon's excessively bold nature because that wasn't Soo-yeon at all, it was the spirit. Yet, the moment Soo-yeon arrived, everyone was overjoyed. Seeing this, the spirit became profoundly emotional, realizing how deeply people loved Soo-yeon, and she began weeping uncontrollably. Later at night, Jimin asked the spirit how he could finally meet Soo-yeon. The spirit told him that between midnight and 3 o'clock, ghostly conversations could occur just as Soo-yeon had once spoken with him. So, following her advice, at the stroke of midnight, he uttered Soo-yeon's name, and suddenly, she appeared before him, as she had been hiding there all along. Overcome with emotions, she instantly hugged him tightly. The two sat together, speaking endlessly. Soo-yeon confessed that she missed him terribly, and Jimin too was deeply moved. The next morning, the spirit began teasing Jimin relentlessly, tormenting him beyond measure. Jimin grew extremely irritated, while Yoon observed that the spirit was genuinely serious about Soo-yeon, meaning she truly loved her too. Does that mean all three were in love with the same shaman? Yoon then advised Jimin not to behave rudely toward the spirit, as they needed to know her truth and eventually send her back. Finally, Jimin approached her with a toy, apologizing as well. The spirit, with overwhelming emotions, said she could not remain inside Soo-yeon's body for long, as her body had become fragile, so weak that she might even die. She explained that if Jimin were to sacrifice himself, she would rather inhabit his body to stay with Soo-yeon. So, Jimin went to the locker and met Soo-yeon. Soo-yeon quickly realized that this wasn't the spirit but Jimin himself, and she tried to push him away. But Jimin stopped her, and both of them were engulfed in emotions. Jimin began kissing her, saying he never wanted to leave her but had no choice. At that very moment, Soo-yeon's soul returned to her body. The spirit had departed, and Soo-yeon was left utterly shocked. Jimin told her to take care of herself, eat properly, and get enough sleep. The following morning, Yoon, upon seeing them sleeping together, understood that Soo-yeon had truly returned, so he prepared her favorite breakfast. Witnessing their deep love, Yoon finally decided to move on. That was the end of his first love, and with a heavy heart, he left forever. So tragic, almost like unsubscribing from Netflix right before the finale. That night, Jimin and Soo-yeon spent time together. Jimin recalled a flashback where he asked Hwasa about sacrifice, and Hwasa said she too wished to die with him, since her mother had sacrificed for her, and she longed to repent. As they began their ritual together, death loomed over them. However, outside, the Flower Master and other shamans were trying to complete the ritual in order to save them. At that precise moment, Soo-yeon returned in her spiritual form, regaining her powers with the help of her mother and other human spirits. Somehow, she reached the ritual place just in time and saved them. While conversing, the spirit remembered her true name. Yunbo, and her soul finally found peace. She bid farewell and departed forever. Hwasa, overjoyed for everyone, also said her goodbye. Jimin attempted to forgive her, but she told him not to waste his effort, advising him to focus on his own life since she had always wronged him and was unworthy of forgiveness. After 5 years, now Jimin was in a competition with his sagang there to watch him. Meanwhile, on her way to meet Jimin, Soo-yeon consoled a ghost child, while Jimin cleared his round successfully. Soo-yeon came to him, and both felt immense happiness, sealing it with a sweet kiss. And in the final scene, it was revealed that Soo-yeon was still a shaman. Her powers had fully returned, and she was helping the same ghost we saw at the beginning of the story, granting peace to its soul, which finally left the man's body. And so, the story concluded with a happy ending, though after so much crying, hugging, sacrificing, and ghostly melodrama, one wonders why these spirits didn't just start a family WhatsApp group instead.